ancient Chinese medicine, snake oil was actually used as an herb that has certain properties, and with today's advances in technology and science, they've actually analyzed the types of snake oil that was used, and they found that it was a very rich source of EPA and DHA, long-chain omega-3 fatty acids that are beneficial for the brain and nervous system. Hello, Kindred Longevity Lifestyle Designers. This is Zach here with SecretsOfLongevity.com. There's a lot of hypocrisy and misunderstanding about certain issues in the health community at large. I see a certain amount of comments on some of my videos where I might be advocating the use of some type of supplement, herb, superfood, and I see these ignorant comments that are coming from a place of rehashed information that people have just parroted from some other teacher that they've heard who's anti these things for really no particular reason, but it actually, to me, it looks more and more that this is sort of a fundamentalist, puritanical type of attitude that's not really based in anything scientific or logical. It's just kind of this belief system that has no basis whatsoever. Unless someone actually can come forward and start to show this to me, because ever since I've been talking on YouTube, even back when I was raw vegan, I was still open to some of these things, specifically thinking back to when I was going to the Quackery Health Institute, and there are certain whole food supplements they recommend, and I was talking about them in videos, and I remember people saying, you don't need that crap, blah, 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 blah. And really, people just didn't understand the place that those can fit into diet. I'm not specifically going to be talking about the supplements of the Quackery Health Institute in this video, but more broadly speaking, herbs, certain superfoods that would come in a packaged form in some way, or even supplements when you're talking about things that you can't really get from a food source if you're really lacking it, like vitamin D3. You can always take fermented cod liver oil, but then you might start calling that a supplement because it's in a bottle and you're taking a set dosage of it. So for anyone who's coming from the standpoint of any degree of processing that happens to food that's just totally not good for you, it just simply degrades the food, and you can get everything you need from Whole Foods, I highly recommend you check out this video here. It was one I did not too far in the past, but it really covers in what way we should be having certain types of foods processed in our diet, and how certain supplements and herbs being processed is totally fine and actually can make things more absorbable. So just a quick summary of that is, if you were talking about an herb like a root that was really coarse and has the medicinal and nutritive compounds really locked into the fibrous qualities of that plant, or even animal product, but we're specifically talking about a root here. When you boil that in water, for instance, and that's a way of preparing something, you're actually breaking down the cell walls, extracting those things that you wouldn't be able to access otherwise. And then say you were to dry that tea down or boil it down to a sludge and then dehydrate it down to a powder and take that and put it in capsules, that capsulated extract is just another way of taking in that tea. There's really nothing bad about that, except people have this mindset that if it comes in a bottle or a capsule, it's like, you know, they just see the similarity between the pharmaceutical industry, and it's vastly different. We're not talking about a concentrated synthetic item that has extreme amounts of negative side effects. This is something that comes from nature. There's one or two steps in processing that is completely necessary to make this bioavailable to the body and usable, so that we can get the benefits that are recorded in scientific studies that can affect the human physiology in some desirable way. So yeah, there's a lot of bad reasoning for the people who are coming from this standpoint, and I'd just like to talk a little further in this video about how we can fix this mindset and really think critically and analytically about this, so that we can elevate our level of knowledge about health in general and benefit from it. So one thing, when I mentioned at the start of that video, which is just kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to snake oil, this is a common phrase that's parroted by these people who are anti anything to do with supplements, or anything you take in a capsule or in a concentrated form that's not whole food, that's just been picked 5 minutes ago. So the idea of snake oil was something that was taken from people of a certain era who were selling things that were labeled as something that they should basically just, in many cases, just water. Might have had other things added to it. But the original origin of snake oil was that it was actually something that was used, much the same way as fish oil, as a supplement for the long-chain fats that were rare in certain foods unless you happen to be consuming a lot of seafood near the ocean. To what degree it was actually sold for those purposes, and maybe that product started to get exaggerated In the past, yes, they didn't have as rigorous analytical methods as they did in perhaps ancient China or getting on into modern science in the West. So in the West, there was a lot of chances for people to be purely about the financial end of things and not have much of a basis in the items they were selling. So they were traveling around selling something, making outrageous claims, and yes, that term was a way of sort of creating this insulting phrase that could just be labeled on something and just, call it point blank that that's what that was, snake oil. And of course we have the Bible in reference to snakes as being cunning and insidious, and so that's where you get that idea from. In modern days, people who are using this term just look silly in my opinion, because, if you're calling reishi selling snake oil, that's just absolutely ridiculous. If you go to PubMed or Google Scholar, you look up reishi, you can find thousands of articles on the research that's been done on this herb. There's really nothing you can bring to the table that's negative against reishi unless you're talking about a specific company and a specific product and saying, this product is overpriced for the quality of it, or, they're doing their product in a way that's not really the best way to extract that, so it's very minimal effect. But really, people, if you're one of those people that is using this term to label something that has a lot of scientific backing, you have to give scientific backing to negate that. Otherwise, you just look like a damn fool. So there's that. There's also other things like quack, the word quack that's thrown out there. And again, that is another term that's used and originally had a different meaning. Specifically, the word quack meant a doctor that was using mercury to treat their patients after it was well known that mercury was causing harm. So it's actually even more common in the mainstream medical field for those types of extreme skeptics, to the point where they're cutting themselves off from alternative health that is backed by science. They use that term, like quackwatch.org, and it's kind of ironic that there's a duck who has like Sherlock Holmes type garb on with a magnifying glass on the homepage of quackwatch.org, and they're trying to use the term quack as if saying, alternative people are the quacks, but they're the investigator. Yeah, it's the duck that's wearing the investigative costume, so it's kind of implying that they're the quacks, which I would agree with, because they're still recommending things like vaccines, which contain mercury, which in some vaccine cases, so if you're someone that recommends a vaccine that has mercury, and the term quack meant a doctor that recommends mercury for treating people, that would actually be appropriate for fitting it. But if we're just talking about the alternative health community and people in general calling each other quacks just because they're trying to think of some kind of insult without having an actual stance and constructed reasoning and logical basis for what they're claiming and trying to label someone else as, it doesn't really hold much weight. So number one, with both those terms, snake oil and quack, people don't understand the definitions of them, and that's what you got to do, is understand those definitions and actually use terms that carry some weight and some meaning to it, and actually back up your stance with ideas and reasons and scientific explanations. So we see two camps largely. There's the camps, and this includes many different groups within the health community. There's those who are puritanical, don't have any real logical basis behind this except for the idea that you don't need these things, but those who are anti-herb supplement superfoods in their form that's been collected might be from somewhere else in the world, and that there could be an argument for that you're shipping something long distances. If you want to minimize that, well, number one, don't be consuming your staple foods from halfway across the world in the tropics. That's another story. But use the local herbs, use local medicines, if you want to be very adamant and strict about that. So I can understand that stance. But using a small amount of something that comes from the Amazon, for instance, like an Amazonian herb if you live in North America, it's not having a huge impact, or as big an impact if you were eating the majority of your calories from mangoes, bananas, and pineapple if you live in Canada or northern US or even southern US. So there could be benefits that are clinically proven from an herb or supplement or superfood that you can use. Yes, if you're trying to just subsist on purely capsulated foods and herbs, I wouldn't recommend that. And that's another argument that could be made against some people that might try to be advocating too many herbs and supplements and superfoods. But just because someone talks about the benefits of a certain herb, supplement, or superfood, you can't completely dismiss everything they're saying just by the fact that they're recommending that. There's no substance to that standpoint. So if we were to compare two groups, not going to label names or specific ideologies here, but say one group was recommending a whole foods diet, wasn't as strict on it being raw or vegan or omnivore or paleo or whatever, and they had some herbs or supplements in with their paradigm that they recommended for people to try or work with. Might include some adaptions, whatever. Then you have the other paradigm, which is saying strictly this way of eating, whatever else they're recommending, but they're saying absolutely no supplements. Maybe one or two if you're really deficient in something that you can't get from that extremely strict diet. Now, if the people in that paradigm are making their money off of purely information products, whereas this group, might have a mix of information products in the form of books or DVDs or courses, they might sell some products, they might have an affiliate program that they're part of, that they're selling someone else's products. But if they stand behind those products and they have scientific backing for it, and that's part of the program they're recommending, and there's less people running into extreme health problems than this group, which is purely making money off of the books and DVDs that you could say is more ethical because they're not selling something. They are selling something, but not a product, as if just the fact that it's something you take in makes it a bad thing. If this group is running into more problems in their community, I'd say that this group that has a few products is doing something that's more ethical. So it has nothing to do with what you're selling, but it's the results you're getting in your community and the people that are using this. So it's not a strong argument by a long shot that just because someone is recommending a product or a series of products or different things, that they're a snake oil salesman. You actually have to be selling something to fit the definition of snake oil salesman from that era of people selling things that they didn't even believe in themselves. You have to be someone that's selling something and exaggerating and fabricating lies about that product. There's really strict guidelines that are coming out nowadays with the FDA. I'm not saying the FDA is a good organization by any means, but there are some benefits to the strict controls they have and are bringing into the marketplace. Again, I'm not pro-FDA here, but when there are certain things that are beneficial, like you can't make outrageous claims about certain products, that's a good thing, and that's preventing people from exaggerating and lying about their product just to make money. But there are a ton of people doing really good work and not exaggerating the claims and selling it like it is, like the science says about these things. So that's what you have to look for, and just dismissing something because it is a product or that person is selling a product or a few different things doesn't hold weight. You need to step up your logical frontal lobe type thinking and apply yourself and just stop parroting that paradigm of perpetual. Let's see how many P words I can fit in there. Anyways, just stop it, think logically, smarten up, and don't be an idiot. So I've been criticized for having an affiliate program, a few different ones I'm part of. There's things I recommend. It's one way that I earn some income so I can continually make videos to help you guys, and it's what I love, and I see the results in some of my clients and in people who give me feedback. I understand there's people out there who aren't part of affiliate programs and they get results with their clients too, and that's perfectly fine. One thing I've had said to me, which I think is extremely hypocritical and limited in someone's thinking, is I've been called out for having an affiliate program, whereas other health teachers who make their money just off ads, or they might have some other products in there that are information-based products in their whole business plan for a way that they can make it a sustainable career for themselves, they are somehow exempt from the ethics issue because they're not selling something that's a product like a superfood or herb. Well, I'd call them out on that if they're making the vast majority of their money off of AdSense ads on their videos, for instance, or on a blog, AdSense ad pay-per-click ads. You don't really have much say as to what type of ads come on there, and you do have some degree of input, but for instance, some of these people who are anti-supplements have ads appearing on their videos for certain supplements that I wouldn't even recommend. I know that they wouldn't recommend them, or it might be pharmaceuticals. So it's extremely hypocritical for them to be saying that what they're doing is more ethical than someone that happens to also be selling a product or be part of an affiliate program. Now in my case, I have both affiliates and ads, so I'm not saying it's unethical to have ads on the video. I'm just saying if we were to judge on a scale of the most responsible in terms of, I'm promoting this product and I have complete control over what I'm recommending, whereas ads, I don't have control over what I'm recommending. I mean, I personally think it's up to the viewer to make their choices, but if we want to have 100% say over what people are choosing to take away from our video, of course everyone's going to make their own choices about what they take away from the video, but when you have ads in your video, the money you make from those ads is going to come from companies, and you don't know which companies you're going to be getting that money from. So I've accepted that personally, and I'm fine with that, but to be engaging in that and then say affiliate programs and selling a product is unethical just doesn't make any sense. Some people seem to think it does make more sense because they're not specifically recommending those products, but they do have the ads on their videos, and they've made the choice to have them there. So yeah, it comes down to details in that, and it really, in my view, doesn't make any sense whatsoever to try and write that off as if, I have no control over what comes up on the ads, it's up to my viewers. Well, sure, but if you're recommending a product, you do have control of that. That's the thing. So let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed before, do that. And also check out the many affiliates I recommend in the drop-down menu below. These are companies I use and recommend. I have no problems recommending them because these are things that I use in my life and I've done the research on and believe wholeheartedly in. I have yet to see information to the contrary on many of those products, and I always challenge people to bring forth the evidence, but not many people are able to do that. So with that, I hope this has given you some food for thought, and with that, take care and embrace life without limits.